I never imagined that falling asleep on the CEO's couch would lead to an unforgettable breakfast. The Stark office was bathed in a lonely silence. I could hardly remember how I drifted off. 1 second, I was reviewing the marketing strategy, fighting the heaviness in my eyelids, and the next, I was awakened by the faintest hint of bacon wafting through the air. My heart raced. The smell was intoxicating, a warm promise of something delicious and unexpected. I blinked, adjusting to the bright fluorescent lights that hummed above. The CEO's office was a world of polished chrome and glass, but today, it felt even more surreal. My head throbbed from the late-night brainstorming session, where a desperate need for success pushed me beyond my limits. I had sacrificed sleep, family dinners, and almost every connection outside these walls. Was it worth it? As I sat up, the plush couch cradling me like a mother, I felt the fabric beneath me, soft yet heavy with untold stories of late-night deals and whispered turmoil. I pushed my hair back, feeling the damp strands clinging to my forehead. My stomach grumbled too long since I had last eaten. Curiosity piqued, I rose, letting the couch release me reluctantly. I tiptoed toward the smell, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The kitchen was bathed in golden light, illuminating the figures bustling around. The company's top executives were gathered in what felt like an unplanned feast. Laughter rang out, a stark contrast to the stressful atmosphere of boardroom meets and conference calls. What kind of breakfast was this? Bacon, eggs, but also something cherry red bubbling on the stove. My senses flooded with confusion. Was it a cocktail of possibilities or impending doom? A tall figure caught my eye. It was her, Vanessa, the fierce and enigmatic woman who had climbed the ranks as the rising star of the company. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, a momentary distraction from her usual steely demeanor. She caught my gaze and tilted her head with a smirk, like a cat waiting for the right moment to pounce. What was she cooking up? The air shifted, tension tightening like a guitar string ready to snap. Were they plotting something? The whispers exchanged were like knives, cutting through the giggles and clinking forks. My heart raced. I felt trapped, an intruder in a secret world. They sensed my unease. I bit my lip, uncertain if I should step further into the fray or retreat back into the safety of the couch. Suddenly, Vanessa turned to me, the apple of temptation resting in her hand, as if daring me to take a bite. You missed the toast. It's got a secret ingredient. Her voice sliced through my thoughts. I hesitated, warmth rising to my cheeks, unsure whether to trust the light in her eyes or the darkness gathering in the corners of the room. What was happening? Was this just breakfast, or a setup for something far more sinister? My pulse thudded like a hammer, questions poised on the edge of my mind. Before I could speak, the door swung open with a sudden crash, and a figure silhouetted against the light stepped inside, casting an imposing shadow. Did someone order a surprise? A voice boomed, sending silent ripples through the gathered group. All eyes turned to the new arrival, and in that moment, the tension reached a boiling point. Who were they? My heart stopped. This breakfast might be the beginning of something unimaginable. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sudden arrival sent a jolt of electricity through the room. The figure stepped forward, the fluorescent lights casting an eerie glow that shadowed their features. My pulse quickened, heart thrumming in a chaotic rhythm as uncertainty looped in my mind like a never-ending reel. Max. Vanessa exclaimed, her surprise veiled with a practiced smile. You weren't supposed to be here so early. The man Max cocked an eyebrow, his presence commanding as he surveyed the executive assembly. And miss this intriguing little gathering? I wouldn't dream of it. There was a wry playfulness in his tone, but I sensed an undercurrent of tension, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. My eyes darted from Vanessa's expression to the rest of the room. Whispers filled the atmosphere, an unsettling hush where once there had been laughter. I could feel the weight of eyes upon me, the tension mounting. Was I the only one who felt like something deeper was at play? As if sensing my conflict, Vanessa stepped closer to me, whispering with a sincerity that cut through the chaos. "Stay close to me. I know it feels off, but there's something good here, I promise." Her voice was soothing yet laced with urgency. I glanced over at her, caught in a gaze that felt like an unspoken pact. The table was adorned with breakfast, yet it no longer felt like an impromptu feast. Max took a seat amid the others, and with a wave of his hand, he beckoned the attention of the room. "All right, let's unearth what we've worked hard for, the next big step for the company." "Gather round." The executives fell silent, redirecting their focus to Max. My heart sank. Had I stumbled upon a secret meeting? I wasn't ready to be an unwilling participant in corporate warfare. But turning back might suggest weakness, so I steeled myself, inching closer to Vanessa's side. Max leaned forward, his voice commanding yet playful. "I want to share with you all an opportunity we've been working on, one that could reshape our market presence. But it will require risk and trust." An appreciative murmur rippled through the crowd, but I could see that trust was a fragile thing here, hovering near the brink of something darker. I could sense Vanessa tensing beside me. Was she shocked by Max's sudden urgency or worried about the implications? Every second stretched like an elastic band ready to snap. I needed answers before I got tangled further into this web. As the room erupted into a debate about strategies, I dragged Vanessa aside. "What's actually happening here? Are we really discussing a business opportunity over breakfast, or is this a front for something else?" She hesitated, gauging the room as if weighing her response. "Max is ambitious, perhaps too ambitious. There are things under the surface, movements and alliances that could change everything. Just keep your ears open." Her words left a sour taste in my mouth, laced with a fear I could not ignore. I looked around, the executives now animated, laughing at jokes that felt sharp and biting. Were they truly friends, or adversaries lurking beneath surface pleasantries? Before I could respond, a piercing voice broke through the noise. "But what if the risks undermine our integrity? We've built this company on strong values, and that legacy can't be jeopardized." It was a woman from finance, her eyes fierce with conviction. The room went quiet, the air thick with tension. Max's face hardened, irritation flaring for just a moment. "In business, integrity is a luxury. We need to evolve or risk being eclipsed by competitors who don't hold back." His retort hung in the air, sparking a wave of dissent amongst the gathered. But then his gaze shifted, landing on me with an unsettling intensity. "And speaking of evolution, we should consider fresh perspectives too. Isn't that right?" My throat tightened as all eyes turned to me, that intense pressure of expectation seeping into my bones. It wasn't my place to speak, yet the weight of their gaze felt like a challenge. What did Max see in me? Before I could process my thoughts, Vanessa grabbed my arm. "Don't. Just don't." The urgency in her voice was palpable. There was something deeper riding on this moment. Max leaned back, an inscrutable smile dancing on his lips as if the gathering was a game he was determined to win. And amidst the chaos, my resolve started to crumble, tension stretching thin like a wire about to snap. Just as I opened my mouth to deflect the attention, the door swung wide again. This time, a woman walked in, a new figure, disheveled yet unmistakably powerful, her presence crackling with energy. Before anyone could react, she locked eyes with Max, fire in her gaze. "Cut the charade. We both know what you're planning, and it ends now." The room fell into a collective gasp, and in that heartbeat, I faced yet another chapter filled with uncertainty. What was hidden beneath layers of ambition and corporate reformation? And why did that woman seem to hold the key to it all? The forces around us were shifting, and I was ill-prepared for what came next. Would I be swept along in the tidal wave or shatter beneath the weight of it all? As the stranger's voice echoed through the room, an electrifying stillness enveloped us. It was as if time had frozen, the raucous laughter stifled and muffled under the weight of her declaration. Max's charming veneer cracked for just a moment, revealing a flash of vulnerability that hung in the air like an uninvited guest. Cassandra, he finally responded, his tone a blend of annoyance and reverence that sent ripples through the assembly. You have a flair for dramatics, I prefer to think of it as being forthright, she shot back, her eyes flickering with defiance. She stood tall, a whirlwind in the sea of neatly pressed suits, and I couldn't help but admire her strength. This isn't a game, Max, you're risking everything for an ill-conceived strategy. The other executives shifted uncomfortably, whispers reigniting like flames in dry grass. I could almost feel the tension manifesting, thick and oppressive, suffocating the air around us. Vanessa's grip on my arm tightened, a silent plea for me to understand the magnitude of what was unfolding. Let's not forget who built this company, Max countered, his voice sharp enough to cut. You think your loyalty to the past will save us? Time evolves, Cassandra. And those who resist it get left behind. Is that what you call this? She gestured around the room, unyielding. A strategy? This feels more like a coup than a business meeting. People trusted you. I am not here to coddle trust. I'm here to lead, he said, his eyes darkening as he glanced at me again, the flicker of a smirk playing at his lips. As the tension escalated, a new sensation prickled at my senses, the realization that I was standing at a precipice, teetering between admiration for Cassandra's bravery and fear of the wrath it might provoke. My stomach churned. Was I merely an observer in this power struggle, or would I be drawn into the fray? Maybe I need to remind you both that trust is built on communication, said the woman from finance, blushing with determination. If we don't honor what made us successful in the first place, we'll lose the very core of our identity. And I won't stand by and watch that happen. A chorus of murmurs arose, some voices rising in agreement while others muttered dissent. Yet as I listened, a glimmer of hope flickered within me. Perhaps discord could be a catalyst for change, a disruptive force to challenge the status quo. But amidst the chaos, I felt powerless, and then, amidst the swirling emotions, the universe gifted me a moment of unexpected kindness. A gentle hand brushed against my shoulder. It was Vanessa, steady and reassuring. You're not alone in this. Remember that, she said, her voice low enough only for me to hear. Your instincts are right. Max has plans that could hurt us all. Don't lose your voice. We need you in this. Her words felt like a lifeline, pulling me back from the brink of uncertainty. But just as quickly as I found focus, chaos erupted again. You're a fool if you think you can manipulate this company without repercussions, Cassandra shot back at Max, her resolve hardening like armor. The board will not stand for it. Max's gaze turned cold, the warmth of his earlier charm evaporating. You ought to remember who signs your checks. Dissent against me is akin to drowning, Cassandra. Choose wisely. With every word exchanged, I realized how close we were to a fracture, and my heart raced as dread curled around my instincts. Yet, still, a stubborn ember of hope remained ignited within me, illuminating the shadows of doubt that loomed large. Just then, as the tensions flared anew, a loud crash came from the other side of the room, a stack of documents spilling onto the floor. Everyone turned, startled, but amidst the commotion, I caught sight of the young intern frantically trying to gather the scattered papers, face flushed with embarrassment. In an instant, that humbling scene served as a stark contrast to the high-stakes battle occurring before us. Before I could fully process what to do next, Max's gaze landed back on me. You see, even this assembly is fragile, he said, his voice smooth yet dripping with something sinister. A delicate balance, and it can all come crashing down if we don't play our cards right. That unsuspecting intern didn't realize the weight of her spilled papers was mere background noise to the true drama unfolding. My mind raced with uncertainty, amplified by Max's ominous words. As I debated the ramifications of stepping further into this treacherous web, I caught Vanessa's eye once more. She nodded confidently, her expression urging me onward. Would I have the courage to speak up, or would I allow fear to silence me? Before I could act, Cassandra's voice rang out above the din. If you think you can intimidate me into silence, you don't know me at all. Just then, I caught a glimpse of something inadvertently revealing in her expression. Had I seen a hint of fear mingled with defiance? Maybe we were all chess pieces in a grand game being played without our consent. As the room pulsed with tension, I realized that the road ahead would demand more than I had anticipated, the delicate balance of ambition and integrity was shifting, and I was perilously close to the edge. Would I find the courage to confront the uncertainty, or would I, too, become swept away in this unsolvable riddle of ambition and betrayal? And what if, amidst this turmoil, the unexpected revelation that awaited us had the power to shift everything we believed? The air was thick with unresolved tensions as the meeting disbanded, but the edifice of walls built on corporate hierarchy remained steadfast, sheltering the storm brewing among us. Cassandra's fiery gaze lingered on Max, leaving the scent of battle hanging heavily in the air as whispers floated around the room, fragmented pieces of gossip coalescing into a dissonant symphony. I found myself standing beside the remains of the stacked documents, scattered on the floor like the remnants of our shattered camaraderie. The young intern Sarah, I remembered from her introduction, was still kneeling, panic etched across her delicate features as she wrestled to collect the pages. I bent down to help her, and our hands brushed against one another, a moment of human connection amidst the mechanical chaos of the corporate world. "Thank you," she muttered, trying to regain her composure, her cheeks still a dull shade of crimson. "I didn't mean to. It just slipped." "It's okay," I reassured her, offering a gentle smile. "We all lose our grip sometimes." As we gathered the papers, I couldn't shake the weight of what had happened moments before. Max's sharp words still rattled in my chest, a reminder that the balance of our fragile environment was teetering on the precipice. Would I be able to find the strength to stand up for what was right? With every piece we managed to collect, I felt Sarah's frantic energy begin to calm, her breath steadying under my encouragement. It was a small moment of kindness, but it expanded like ripples on a pond. "You know, it's easy to forget the humanity in these walls," I said, my eyes drifting over the remnants of our meeting. "But that's what really counts." She looked up then, her hazel eyes searching my face for sincerity. "You're right. Sometimes, I think it's just a game to them. Booty don't want to play." Her admission cracked something within me, a nudge toward realization. Perhaps if we recognized our shared humanity, we could fortify ourselves against overseers like Max and the looming consequences of this fray. "Neither do I whispered back, an unexpected resolve threading through my voice. As we finished tidying up, I caught a glimpse of Vanessa standing near the door, arms crossed, pencil tapping against her chin, her face a mix of concern and anticipation. Our eyes locked briefly, and I sensed hers implored me to challenge the unyielding structures that sought to confine us all. Fresh from my encounter with Sarah, I summoned my courage once more, daring to step into the fray that was our current reality. "Vanessa," I called softly, moving towards her. She turned slightly, her brow lifting in intrigue. Before I could speak another word, a sudden commotion erupted from a nearby office. It was faint, yet penetrative, a cacophony of raised voices rising above mundane office chatter. My heart raced, propelled by an instinct now demanding to be heeded. "Did you hear that?" I asked Vanessa, urgency layering my tone. Without hesitation, she grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the source of the noise. "We need to see what's happening. This could affect us all," she replied, her voice taut with expectation. The closer we got, the clearer the discord became, shouting voices layered with frustration and anger. As we rounded the corner into the hallway, the sight that greeted us sent a chill rolling through me. Several employees were gathered, their faces drawn with concern. In the center, Cassandra stood, her hands gesturing animatedly. "It's not just bottom lines. We're talking about lives, futures, integrity," she exclaimed, her voice naturally commanding, even amidst the rising tide of dissent. "What are you trying to prove?" came a harsh voice from a man in a crisp blue suit. "We don't have time for your theatrics, Cassandra. This is not just about you." Beneath the assertive words, I caught a glimpse of the fear that gripped him, a fear of losing everything he had worked hard to build. Yet in his outburst, I saw how deep the conflict ran. It was the frantic struggle between the need for success and the desire to assert one's self. With my heart galloping, I glanced toward Vanessa, who seemed equally entranced by the scene unraveling. I could almost hear the collective gasp of the onlookers. Could this erupt into something much worse? "Can't you see?" Cassandra persisted, desperation seeping into her words. "This is about more than profits. Look around you, our very foundation is built on trust, and when you jeopardize that, you harm us all. Emily, from HR, stepped from the crowd, her expression fierce yet pained. There's a limit to what we'll endure, Max, and you're pushing us to our breaking point, she added, before facing the murmurs of agreement that flared up among the assembly. As the tension built, I felt the decision resting in my hands, the weight of inaction pressing down like a leaden cloak. The crackling air buzzed with uncertainty, and I caught sight of Sarah's worried face among the sea of familiar and unfamiliar colleagues. It was in that moment, filled with palpable dread, fear, and the essence of unity on the brink of fracture, that I realized something more. It was no longer just about standing up for what was right. It was about confronting the truth of who we were in the face of overwhelming opposition. Then, a voice cut through, unexpected and haunting. And what if everything you've built crumbles around you before the sunrise? It was Max, stepping into the chaos with an unsettling calm, his presence drenching the room in dread. I shot a glance at Vanessa. What does he mean? I wondered, turning back just as anticipation stormed thick. His words hung heavy, and in that instant of stunned silence, a realization struck me like a lightning bolt: the stakes were higher than we had imagined. Whatever his plans were, they were not just a threat to our jobs or our ideals, they could unravel the very fabric of who we were. Would we, as individuals and as a collective, have the strength to redefine our identity in the face of imminent upheaval? Would I rise, or would I also let fear silence me? The weight of the moment trembled before me, teetering on the brink of revelation, and I stood uncertain, poised on the edge of the storm. The only certainty? There was no turning back now. The fluorescent lights of the office pulsed ominously above us, a sterile reminder of the corporate machinery grinding on around our burgeoning unrest. Max's chilling words still echoed in my mind, pulling me deeper into a vortex of confusion and fear. The room, once a place where we shared laughter and ambition, felt irreversibly tainted. I couldn't help but glance around, hoping to find some reprieve in familiar faces. In that moment of turmoil, I noticed Sarah once more, her fingers trembling as she clutched a crumpled document, her quivering lip echoing the unspoken anxieties of the entire assembly. Instinctively, I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently, a gesture intended to offer strength, but instead, it was a silent plea for her to share my burden. Cassandra is right, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying the weight of conviction. We can't let fear dictate our choices. We can be more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. Just then, a ripple of murmurs ran through the crowd, igniting a collective spark of rebellion. We deserve transparency. Someone shouted from the back, emboldened by the chaos. The energy in the room shifted, transforming from the stifling dread of minutes before to a simmering tide of defiance. Glances were exchanged, and, as if choreographed by some unseen force, people began to open up about their frustrations, casting aside the shackles of compliance one nuanced feeling at a time. Vanessa caught my eye, nodding at me with a fierce determination. In her expression, a silent anthem echoed: we were not alone. We were a part of a larger fabric, a mosaic of ambitions, hopes, and the unyielding human spirit that had been stifled long enough. But just as we lifted ourselves from the depths of despair, an unsettling thought crept into my mind: what ramifications lay ahead for us? The fear of retribution lingered like a ghost at the door, and beneath our desperate voices ran a current of anxiety about losing everything if we dared to speak out. With a flicker of courage shining bright, I opened my mouth to voice my thoughts again when a sudden crash resonated through the space. Sarah gulped, and all heads turned, minds distracted momentarily by the noise that shattered our intensity. We all instinctively turned towards the edge of the gathering where an office chair now lay askew, while its occupant, Harun of the quiet, steadfast members of our team, stumbled to his feet, his eyes wide. I just wanted to make a point, he stuttered, his formidable presence now seemingly fragile amidst the tension. The humor that usually sparked from his wit had abandoned him now, leaving behind a man spellbound by fear of having crossed a line. I've been thinking about what Max said about everything crumbling. What if it's true? What if it is? Called out Emily, her voice rising above the aftermath of the jarring sound. We can't keep pretending things will stay the same. They never do. But we can at least choose how we go down. A murmur of agreement thrummed through the crowd, and I saw the resolve flicker in each of their expressions. Hero, standing there, uncertain, ignited a spark of camaraderie, if he could stumble and still stand, perhaps we could, as the courage in the room surged, though, a new weight settled over my heart. Could we really rearrange the pieces scattered so recklessly? What might we lose in our quest for change? From a corner office, a shadow moved, and suddenly the door swung open, revealing a breathless Cassandra. Her gaze held fierce determination, her hair disheveled yet her spirit unwavering. "Thank you," she said, breathless with emotion, "for standing up. We stand at a crossroads now, and it is vital we choose wisely. Do we choose conformity or clarity?" Max's compelling voice lanced through the tension. He stood aside her, his icy demeanor a chill breeze against the warm tide of solidarity in the room. "You want change? Then brace yourselves." He gestured with a sweeping motion, the room collectively holding its breath, awaiting whatever tempest lay within his words, "because you have no idea what you're inviting with your cries for transparency." His blue eyes glinted dangerously, and an uncomfortable realization settled over me like a shroud. This was not merely about a workplace revolution, it was about uncovering dark truths that could shake our very foundations. "What is that supposed to mean?" I challenged, the anger rising as fear twisted in my gut. "What are you hiding, Max?" He smiled, a cold, humorless twist of his lips. "Let's just say tomorrow isn't promised, dear colleagues." The looming threat in his words felt like a punch to the gut, shrouded, yet clear enough to sow seeds of terror. I felt not just the urge to confront him but the weight of inevitability greater than any singular confrontation could surface. Cassandra stepped forward, fierce as a lioness ready to protect her pride. "If we fall, we will fall together. But we will not be broken by intimidation." In a flash of energy, the room erupted in applause, flashes of hope igniting a war-weary spirit. Yet the weight of uncertainty stayed lodged deep in my chest, clinging with an unshakable grip. As I shared in their applause, my heart wrestled with multiple truths. For change to be born, sacrifices would be made, but what would they be? And could our unity endure the trials bound to come, with mirrored expressions of hope and anxiety reflected across each face engaged in this communal wave of rebellion? I couldn't escape the foreboding sensation that something catastrophic loomed nearby, and that this was perhaps merely the calm before a greater storm. Then the lights flickered ominously, followed by a chilling silence. The turbines of change had begun to spin, but as they did, I felt the ground shift beneath me, knowing all too well that the path we had chosen held promises and perils yet to be unveiled. The next morning began with a jarring hum, rousing me from a fitful sleep that had barely settled into dreams. The half-light of dawn peered through the windows, casting a soft glow over the office's stark furniture, but it did little to clear the murky thoughts clouding my mind. I stretched and sat upright on the CEO's couch, the surrounding Scott wallpaper unfamiliar and indifferent, its patterns representing the sterile corporate blanket that we had all laid under for far too long. I grimaced, trying to shake off the remnants of yesterday's emotional tempest. It was hard to believe we had actually ignited a flame of rebellion against Max, but that flame felt fragile today, the embers still warm, but vulnerable to winds of doubt. A soft knock followed by the creak of the door broke my reverie, and there stood Sarah, her auburn hair tousled and sleep in her eyes. For a moment, we exchanged sheepish glances, the intimacy of our shared fears almost tangible. "Did you sleep here?" Her voice came out slightly hoarse, an unintentional echo of my own fatigue. "Guilty as charged," I replied with a wry smile, but then we both fell into silence, the weight of our unsaid concerns resting heavily between us. In some ways, the aftermath of our confrontation with Max felt like an impending storm, its dark clouds now obscuring the bright start we had hoped would emerge. "About yesterday," she began tentatively, wringing her hands together, "I was thinking. What if we used today to gather our thoughts? Create a plan? I mean, if we're ever to challenge Max again, we should be prepared." Her determination had the ability to spark glimmers of hope within me, as scattered as they may have seemed. "That sounds like a smart idea. But we should include everyone," I responded, buoyed by her willingness to fortify our resolve. As we spoke, there was an unexpected rap on the door again, and this time, Vanessa burst in, brimming with the uncontainable energy she had always carried. "Guess what? I had a chat with Hero," she said breathlessly as she plopped down beside us on the couch. "He's on board to form a task force." A few others feel the same way. The thrill of camaraderie washed over us like a cool breeze, the idea of building a coalition igniting a flicker of clarity amid the chaos. Sarah and I shared a conspiratorial glance, our outlook transforming in that shared moment of hopious sentiment that felt increasingly rare but potent when shared. Yet just as quickly, the knot of anxiety resumed its hold as reality intruded once more, shaking us back to apprehension. But what if Max finds out? What if he retaliates? I couldn't ignore the warnings that formed in the depths of my mind, a sharp reminder of the unyielding power he wielded. Let him try, Vanessa shot back, her spirit undaunted. We can't go back to being afraid. What's the point in that? It's better to fight and live than to cower in silence. Every word she spoke resonated, an ancient battle cry echoing through the tangled web of our anxieties. The growing alliance we were forging could very well be our salvation. My heart dared to dance, imagining a path solidified by collective resistance, but the specter of Max loomed prominently, a dark shadow on the verge of encroachment. The three of us spent the next hour sketching out ideas, talking through strategies to build our resistance. We filled pages with thoughts and captured fears, meetings in secret, coded language for communication, unity within diversity. Each suggestion echoed with urgency and filled with a frantic hope that maybe this time it could be different. Just as I began to feel the fire of our words ignite a surge of optimism, the phone on the desk buzzed sharply, slicing through the air like a knife. The tremor of its insistence sent a shiver down my spine. I reached for the receiver as a shroud of uncertainty enveloped the room. What if it's Max? Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with dread. Before answering, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the glass, a soft yet fierce resolve mingled with a newfound vulnerability beneath the confident facade I tried to uphold. For each moment of solidarity we built together, it was underscored by veils of fear waiting to unravel. Hello? My voice trembled slightly as I pressed the speaker button, and suddenly, Max's clipped tone filled the air. So nice to see you all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this morning, he said, the facade of casualness barely concealing the steel beneath. I hope you've all enjoyed your little gathering? I trust you've been pining over your choices, as I've been thinking of mine. A cold flutter shot through my belly, and just as I was about to respond, his voice dropped, lower and more menacing than I had ever heard. You best tread carefully, as one misstep could lead to dire consequences for you and your friends. Don't forget who holds the bigger cards. The line went dead. I stared at the phone in horror, my heart racing. The unity we had forged now felt unnervingly fragile in the grasp of fear. Max's words hung in the air like a storm cloud, and for a terrifying moment, I feared our collective bravery might slip into isolation, the very thing it fought against. The thrill that had sparked in our planning was now tethered to a harrowing uncertainty that could snap back like a rubber band at any moment. With trembling hands, I set the receiver down, meeting the alarmed gazes of Sarah and Vanessa. We have to be ready for anything, I whispered, the shadows of doubt coiling tightly around my heart. We were on the precipice of war, and I braced myself for the battles that lay ahead, both with our oppressor and within ourselves. Whatever fragile plans we had formed could easily shatter. But as I looked into each of their eyes, the flicker of belief shone beneath the fear, a potent enough reminder that in the face of overwhelming odds, it was our shared hope that might just lead us through the dark. And just then, as I steeled myself for whatever came next, a fleeting realization struck with the force of a thunderclap. Perhaps it wasn't merely our jobs at stake. Perhaps, in speaking out, we would unearth truths that could alter our destinies forever. The cold air of the office danced around me, wrapping its bitter embrace around each lingering thread of hope we had woven together. It was a reminder that outside, the world was unmoved by the tribulations we faced, oblivious to the internal war we prepared to wage against Max. I glanced back at Sarah and Vanessa, seeing the fierce determination that flickered in their eyes, but doubt swirled insidiously in my mind. Let's meet everyone we can, I said, trying to inject energy into my words. The sooner we galvanize our alliance, the stronger we'll be. As plans unfurled before us, the office space transformed into a makeshift war room. It felt surreal, the walls that once confined us morphing into a sanctuary of resistance, tables piled high with blueprints, hastily scrawled lists, and trembling hands gripping pens as they flew across the pages. I was surrounded by my friends, those willing to stand alongside me against the corporate behemoth that was Max, Yet every fervent idea exchanged seemed to dangle over a chasm of uncertainty, each one teetering too close to the edge. Halfway through a particularly heated conversation about potential allies, a light knock interrupted us again. The door cracked open, and there stood Hero, his brow furrowed but determination written across his features. "Hey, I heard voices," he said cautiously, stepping inside when he saw our mix of expressions that danced between excitement and trepidation. "What are you guys plotting now?" The warm spark of joy lit a flame in my chest. "We're gathering our forces. Want to join?" A wavering laugh escaped, but it felt good to invite someone else into our plans, a new thread, adding to our burgeoning tapestry of rebellion. Hero's eyes widened, then he grinned broadly. "Count me in. I've seen what Max can do, and it's time we put a stop to it." For a moment, we shared a sense of collective empowerment, an inexplicable bond forming as another member joined our cause. Battle lines were being drawn, each of us stepping further away from the shadows, daring to confront the reality of our situation. But as I witnessed this power shift, a gnawing dread nestled itself deeper within my heart. What if we were exposed? What if our spoken plans quickly turned into whispered rumors, the walls that carried our secrets suddenly equipped with eyes and ears? "Let's set up a secure channel for communication," I suggested, the vibrancy of our gathering stifled beneath the weight of fear yet again. "We cannot risk being overheard or seen as weak. The stakes are too high." Nods of agreement circulated the room, though a heavy silence lingered, reminding us all of the perilous ground we tread. Each time we took a step forward to reclaim our autonomy, it felt like we were risking everything in return, a delicate balance that could tip into chaos with a single miscalculation. As we shifted into deeper strategies to safeguard our plans, a flicker of movement caught my eye from the corner of the glass wall, and there was Max, watching us with that sinister smile that sent a shudder through my spine. His presence, once a source of dread, now ignited something within me. The slivers of courage we had amassed were suddenly eclipsed by his looming unwillingness to relinquish control. "Looks like he's been keeping tabs on us," Vanessa muttered, her eyes narrowing. My heart sank, but it also spurred an irrepressible defiance. "Let him watch," I whispered fiercely, and the confidence in my words felt genuine even if trembling. "We can't live in fear any longer." With each determination expressed, we shifted gears once more. Hero began to outline a strategy to gather intel, while Sarah suggested leveraging our connections beyond the office walls. Ideas collided, building upon one another until the room buzzed with an electric energy. This fire was far from dead. Yet as we fell into designing our next steps, the phone buzzed again, slicing through our momentum like a knife. I hesitated, dread coiling around my gut as I reached for it. The screen flashed with an unknown number, and I hesitated mere milliseconds too long before accepting the call. "Hello?" The words left my mouth as a hesitant question. "Good to see you're still awake, my ambitious little soldiers." Max's voice slithered through the speaker, carrying a sly inflection that set my teeth on edge. "I thought you'd be preparing for a funeral, given the road you've chosen. I wouldn't advise against checking your surroundings. Not everyone is on your side." A chill washed over me, his words were cryptic yet laden with foreboding. Then the line went dead. Panic raced through my bloodstream like wildfire, leaving my mind scrambling for meaning. Had he known about our growing coalition? Was someone in our midst betraying us? I set the phone down, trembling as dread enveloped the room, squashing our earlier camaraderie in a thick veil of uncertainty. "He knows," I managed to breathe out, feeling a wave of nausea settle in my stomach as I looked at my friends. "What does he mean?" Sarah pressed, her eyes wide and fearful. "I don't know," I murmured, uncertainty clouding my confidence, "but we must be careful. Our plans are vulnerable, and I don't know who we can trust." With every word spoken, the initial glow of hope appeared dimmer, eclipsed by the real possibility of betrayal present within our ranks. The brief moments of courage we had gathered felt like fragile wisps, held together only by the intensity of our discussion. Suddenly, a heavy silence consumed the room, and I realized amidst our chaotic emotions an unexpected resolution must come. A shivering dread settled deep within me, ominous and unsettling, as I fought back tears that threatened to break free. Who would abandon us? Who would pull the rug out from under our rebellion? And just then, through the pounding drumbeat of anxiety, a chilling thought pierced my mind. sowing seeds of doubt and fear. What if the person sabotaging us wasn't just hiding among our ranks in the office, but someone I had once considered a friend? The morning light sifted through the office blinds, casting long shadows that stretched across the makeshift battleground we had created overnight. I was the first to arrive, a wakeful heart barely beating under the weight of anxiety that entrenched itself in my chest. The room was eerily quiet, the faint sound of office machinery humming in the background. I paced to clear my mind, but each step echoed loudly against the silence, serving as a reminder of the heavy burden we carried. The tension from last night's unsettling phone call still lingered, tugging at the edges of my thoughts. I was desperate to feel that sliver of hope again, yet every glance at the empty chairs around the conference table choked my spirit. It wasn't long before Sarah burst through the door, her eyes bright yet clouded with worry. "You're here early," she remarked, trying to inject casualness into the conversation, but it trembled at the edges like the brittle piece of a truce waiting to shatter. "I couldn't sleep," I admitted, my voice hoarse. "Too much on my mind." "Same here," she replied, collapsing into one of the chairs, her posture heavy with fatigue. "This feels so massive. We're going to need every person we can count on." The weight of her words pressed down on me, igniting my fear once more. What if someone is already working for Max? How can we trust anyone? As if to mock our trepidation, Vanessa strolled in, her face a mix of resolve and vulnerability. "Have you thought about reaching out to Liz?" she suggested, her tone breaking with uncertainty. "She used to be in his inner circle. If anyone could help us understand Max's moves." I paused, considering the possibility. Liz was indeed a gem trapped in a web of deceit spun by Max, a former friend turned captive of corporate culture. Maybe a frayed thread of connection still lingered, one that could be pivotal in our fight against the Goliath. But what if Liz had already accepted her role as pawn, trusting in the safety of betrayal? "I'll reach out," I said with an air of defiance, unwilling to let fear seal our fate. "We need all the knowledge we can get, but we proceed with caution." As the day wore on, the office gradually filled with the motley crew of the weary but determined. Each face reflected the pain of uncertainty, yet small sparks of bravery glimmered within like a wildfire waiting to ignite. I felt myself warmed by their conviction, the bond drawing tighter, though I could still sense the edges fraying. Amidst the storm of urgency, we decided to focus on rebuilding trust within ourselves. "Let's share our vulnerabilities," Vanessa proposed, her voice quieter yet steady. "Each of us lays our cards on the table. If we're going to send a message to Max, we need to be solid." And so it went one by one. We shared our fears, insecurities, and burdens. There was something undeniably profound about each story, weaving a deeper connection among us. Laughter broke through despair as Sarah recounted the absurdity of our initial forays into corporate hell, and we let it wash over us, a soft balm against the hardness of our predicament. But just as the mood lifted, a notification pinged from my phone. The image crystallized before me, an energetic selfie of Liz, grinning carefree beside a company banner displaying Max's smiling face. A caption accompanied it that read, "Excited for the new direction. Team Max all the way." A knot tightened in my stomach, punctuated by suffocating disbelief. How could she? The betrayal bit like frost, chilling any flicker of hope for an alliance. "Is everything okay?" Sarah's voice crackled through the air, yanking me from my shock. I turned the phone towards the group, unsure how to articulate the dread curling in my veins. "I don't think we can trust Liz." "Look at this, she's fully committed to his side." Gasps echoed around the room, and for a heartbeat, the courage we'd drawn from sharing fell flat, replaced by a palpable cloud of disappointment. I could see the glimmer dimming in my friend's eyes. It was as if a storm had rolled in, swallowing up our collective resolve. "But we can't lose hope," Vanessa interjected, her voice trembling but fierce. "There might still be a way to turn her against him. We just need to be smart." It was a fragile lifeline, yet as I absorbed her words, I felt a sense of responsibility burning in my chest. We had fought all this time to stand up to something much larger than ourselves. We had to keep fighting, even if the battlefield was muddy with betrayal. We spent the rest of the day strategizing and adjusting our approach, but even as we delved into a newfound enthusiasm, uncertainty lurked in the shadows. The looming specter of betrayal weighed heavily on us, clinging like a shroud. Later that evening, as dusk fell and fatigue cloaked our vibrant spirit, my phone buzzed again. Clenching my fists, I glanced at the screen, prepared for more gut-wrenching news or worse, another call from Max. To my surprise, it read unknown number. Not again, I whispered under my breath, hesitating before accepting the call. Hello? The words echoed with hesitance, even as excitement danced within me. Good evening, a gravelly voice replied, tinged with familiarity and yet distant. I believe it's time we had a conversation about Liz. You might find it enlightening. My heart raced painfully in my chest as adrenaline flooded my body. Who is this? Someone who knows the truth. Someone who can help you unveil the darkness lurking within your own walls. The line went dead, leaving me in a haze of questions and fears. A creeping realization tightened its grip around my throat. What if there was more than one traitor among us? And were we walking into a trap that would shatter the fragile camaraderie we had painstakingly built? As I blinked into the dim light of the office, dread washed over me like a tidal wave. The battle was far from over, and the real fight was only just beginning. The city skyline shimmered outside the office window, a tapestry of hope painted against the encroaching darkness. But within these walls, the reality was far more complicated, layered with deceit and uncertainty. As I sat in silence, the gravity of the mysterious call hung over me like a storm cloud, and I found it increasingly difficult to shake the foreboding feeling that settled deeper into my bones. Who was it? Sarah's voice cut through the quiet, her eyes wide with curiosity and concern. The others had left for the evening, but she lingered, seeking answers just as desperately as I needed to find them. A voice, I said, my tone flat as I leaned my elbows on the table and buried my face in my hands. The person didn't reveal their identity, but they implied that they knew something significant about Liz, about us. Great, just what we need, she replied, her knuckles tightening around the edge of the table. Another wild card. I know, I replied, glancing up to meet her gaze. But what if it's a trap? What if it's someone trying to play us against each other? She interrupted, a spark lighting up her features, laced with fear. I nodded, knowing that the line dividing caution from fear was razor thin. The idea of walking into a snare haunted me, yet curiosity clawed at my insides, a dim prospect of hope that perhaps there was a way to untangle the web Max had spun around us. What are you thinking? Sarah asked, reading the conflict that danced behind my eyes. We can't ignore it, I murmured, digging for courage to face my own thoughts. We have to find out who this person is, what they know. But we do it together, we have to trust one another. Just then, the office door creaked open once again, and Vanessa entered, a cup of coffee in hand, brightening ever so slightly the dim atmosphere. I thought I heard voices in here. What happened? I relayed the conversation, noting the way her expression shifted with each revelation. So we have an opportunity and a risk, she concluded, her voice steady as she took a seat beside Sarah, their shoulders almost touching. I think we should take it. But let's do it on our terms. Take it on our terms. The mantra etched itself into my heart. It reminded me that our fortitude did not solely reside in wielding defenses. It was also rooted in seizing opportunities. Even when shrouded in doubt, we resolved to meet the mysterious informant at a cafe where familiarity could act as a cloak, tucked away in an unassuming corner and surrounded by the aroma of fresh pastries and brewing coffee. With a plan in motion, we huddled around the conference room table, plotting just as we'd been taught to do in crises time and again. We should be weary, but our hearts synchronized with a note of defiance. We would not yield so easily to despair. But as the clock inched towards our appointed meeting hour, my stomach churned with apprehension as if signaling impending chaos. What if I walked into a trap? Or worse, what if our gathering had been compromised? We made our way silently through the bustling city streets, the cacophony of sounds replaced by a tense stillness weighing each of our breaths. Sarah's fingers brushed against mine as we walked, a small connection that provided warmth as my thoughts spiraled. So, if this person knows something about Liz, Vanessa whispered, summing up our gathering anxieties, what if whatever information they spill complicates things even more? A chill ran down my spine. I don't know whether to view this as a blessing or a curse. Either way, we need to approach this together, Sarah encouraged, her voice low yet steady, a reminder that beneath the swelling uncertainty lay the roots of solidarity. The cafe came into view, its neon sign flickering like a beacon. The three of us paused at the entrance, shared a glance that seemed to ask the same question: how deep was the betrayal running? Inside, the cozy ambience felt foreign amid the swirling tension. We chose a quiet booth by the window. I fidgeted with the napkin, eyes darting towards the entrance, waiting for our potential ally or enemy to reveal themselves. Any idea when they're supposed to show? Vanessa asked softly. I shrugged, unable to articulate the gnawing impatience building inside me. Time felt arrested, suspended between tension and anticipation. Just as I was about to voice my frustration, a figure stepped through the door, causing my heart to skip wildly. There, with an air of unsettling familiarity, sat Liz, eyes scanning the room before zeroing in on our table. I stifled a gasp as emotions collided like speeding trains: hurt, disbelief, and the remnants of that glimmer of hope that had once danced in my chest. "Is this some kind of joke?" Sarah hissed under her breath, eyes wide. "No." I shook my head slowly, disbelief contorting my features. "I don't understand." Liz approached slowly, her face harshly illuminated in the cafe light, vulnerability coiling beneath steely resolve. "I heard you've been trying to track me down." In that moment, everything I believed sputtered on the edge of collapse. Liz had chosen the side of the enemy, yet here she was, standing before us, an unwelcome blend of past and future shadows. We were in uncharted waters, and inevitably, the tide was shifting. "Why are you here?" I managed to whisper, fragments of trust fraying like ancient fabric. Her jaw clenched as she leaned in closer, a sense of urgency wrapping around her words. "Because I know something. Something you need to hear. There's more at play than you realize, and you might want to reconsider everything you've ever thought about me." The weight of her announcement hung between us, heavy and thick as fog, laden with complexity. With every passing second, my heart raced. I could feel the fragile threads of our collective fate weaving and reweaving into an uncertain maze. And as Liz took a seat, casting a glance full of remorse and something else, perhaps a flicker of rebellion, I knew we stood on the precipice of revelations that could either save us or tear us apart. The cafe was a cocoon of noise and warmth, yet as I sat across from Liz, the sound around us faded into a low hum that blended seamlessly with the chaotic whirlpool of thoughts in my mind. I studied her, searching for threads of the friendship we once shared, only to find her expression tethered between remorse and determination, reflecting the intricate layers of our entwined lives. "Why now?" I blurted out, urgency underscoring my words. "Why did you choose to stand with him?" Liz inhaled sharply, hesitating as if weighing the truth against the weight of her decisions. "It's not as simple as you think," she began, her voice quaking slightly beneath the surface of confidence she tried to project. "When Max approached me, promising opportunities that stretched far beyond my wildest dreams, it felt like a lifeline. I was drowning in a sea of mediocrity, and I thought I could make a difference from within." The confession hung heavily, a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities we all battled. But I couldn't let my heart waver just yet. "And what of us? What of the team we built together?" My question echoed with the dissonance created by her choices. "I am telling you this because I was wrong," she continued, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I realized too late that ambition shouldn't come at the cost of integrity. The more I'm drawn into Max's web, the more I see how twisted his vision really is. He's not just aggressive, he's sinister. And if you're not willing to play by his rules, well, you know the stakes." My heartbeat quickened, a chaotic rhythm stirring within me as the truth of her words began to seep in. "What do you know, Liz?" I pressed, the fire of determination igniting anew. "What has he been planning? What danger are we truly in?" As she opened her mouth to respond, uncertainty flickered across her face, morphing into something deeper. "The plans he discussed with me, expanding into markets that exploit the most vulnerable. Doesn't care who gets hurt. People will lose their jobs. Their families. We might even face legal repercussions if he isn't stopped." The urgency in her voice cut through the cafe's ambience, forging a path to clarity amidst the chaos. With each revelation, I felt the ground beneath my own resolve shift. "But why reach out now?" I asked again, needing clarification. "What's changed?" "I can't be part of this any longer," she replied, her eyes shimmering as she reached for my hands, cradling them in her palms, a gesture that sent warmth through the cold room. I've seen the truth that's hidden. Our lives are at stake. If you'll have me, I want to help bring him down. I owe that much to the woman I used to call a friend. Undoubtedly, her words layered an odd sense of hope against the storm I feared was brewing, yet suspicion twinkled in the threshold of my mind. Do you expect us to believe you after all this? Trust is a fragile thing, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, but perhaps we can navigate this together. You can't fight alone. You know that. Besides, she added, her expression softening, I can't lose my chance to make things right. Before I could voice a retort, Sarah leaned forward. What's the plan then? How do we proceed? The question hung suspended in the air, charged with potential. Liz seemed to draw courage from our collective weight, an alliance resurrecting itself from ashes, struggling to find its form in a world muddied by betrayal. I think it's time to create an ultimatum, Liz said slowly, her gaze flitting between Sarah and me. We gather our collective strength and confront Max directly. Equip everyone with the information I have, the risks he's taking, the paths he's on. We can demand change, or at least bring to light what's hidden beneath the facade. A spark ignited within me, each word striking chords that made my heart race with adrenaline. It could work, I said, my voice trembling at the prospects of courage but invigorated by her conviction. If we can rally enough support, I can help, Liz interrupted, her eyes gleaming with determination. But only if you trust me. Instinctively, doubt coiled itself tightly around my chest, squeezing until I gasped. Then, the memories of our past flooded back, the laughter shared over late hours, the dreams we sculpted in secret with hopeful wishes and laughter. I want to believe in that person, I finally replied, gripping her hands tighter. But there's still a fracture between us, and it won't magically disappear overnight. True, she conceded, her voice raw with emotion. It won't be easy, but let's not allow fear, whether of you or Max, to guide our choices any longer. At that moment, I allowed a glimmer of faith to dance within my heart. Together, we would be stronger. Together, we could ignite a fire against the forces that sought to entwine us in darkness. Rising from the table with determination, I shared a look with Sarah, who nodded, her expression shifting from doubt to empowerment. Over Liz's shoulder, Vanessa burst in as if angered by the moment's delay, arms crossed, her voice a low growl. You guys have been plotting without me? I want in on this. A rush of warmth cascaded through me as I grinned at the dynamic energy unearthing between us. We're forming an alliance, I said, turning to Liz. And the more of us, the stronger we'll be. We need to share this with everyone facing the same threats, but we have to be smart. Trust will be our greatest weapon, but we can't afford to stray into the darkness. As our coalition solidified, Liz's newly resolved spirit resonated in the air. It felt like a phoenix rising, not from the ashes, but from the fragility of choices eagerly seized. Yes, it was a risk, a gamble that would test our belief in one another. But the path ahead was wrought with possibility. Time morphed into the rhythm of our united voices, as we pieced together a plan to unveil Max's lurid schemes. We would shine a light into the shadows, navigate our way through the labyrinth of ambition and greed that he had built. And regardless of what lay ahead, together we would unearth the truth, whatever it took. As I stepped outside the cafe with the weight of the world resting on our shoulders, something inside of me shifted, a small, yet fierce flicker of hope, igniting like a beacon in the darkening world. Let's make tomorrow count, I whispered to my friends, feeling the rhythm of resolve maximize with every beat of my heart. And as we plunged into the night, uncertainty lingered like a dark cloud hovering over us, but somewhere within me, I felt a thread of faith stitch itself into an unbreakable bond. I sensed we were on the cusp of something momentous opening, a chance for clarity, an evening illuminating the darkest corners. Tomorrow's light would usher in the unknown, but we would be there to guide its way.